Welcome to Stories and Songs by Afterglow Music. My name is Joel McCausland.
And I'm Kevin Peay, and we've been creating music for a long time.
We'd like to tell you the stories behind our songs. You know, sometimes we get a chance to write songs for specific purposes. We'll get asked sometimes to create a song for some kind of an event. A few years ago, it's actually several years ago now, I was in the Stake Young Men's program in our area. And that means we're working with the youth, the young men, particularly 12 to 18. And once in a while, these groups, every year or so, head out on what they call a trek, which is a journey of a few days, maybe a week sometimes. And it's all designed so that the young men and women of the church can kind of feel a little bit of what it was like for the pioneers, the early Mormon pioneers, when they crossed the plains to come to Utah way back in the 1800s. And, you know, they're pushing handcarts or pulling wagons or riding in wagons or walking. Most of them walked. And it was an amazing exodus of people over a period of several years. And the reason I guess we do Trek is to help us be aware of and more appreciative for the sacrifices of those people coming across the plains. In this particular case, I wrote a song called My Trek. It was on our Mercyville album, and it was a cool opportunity to be able to reflect a little bit on that and to compare what they were going through with kind of our journeys today.
Day after day, we walk, we travel onward. How long must we go on today? Mile after mile, this path goes on forever. How will we ever find our way?
I appreciate the theme of this particular song. When I listen to it, the harmonica just takes me to a certain place. It takes me to the plains. And I'm grateful for the arrangers who went through that process and suggested that we do that in the studio. And whenever I hear that, I think back to my days in Nauvoo in 1982 when we were commissioned by Dr. Kimball, who was our mission president, who started the Nauvoo Restoration, to write a play called Walkin' to the West. And so we put our heads together and tried to come up with a few lines. Walkin' to the West, I'm tired of walking. Walking to the West, I'm tired. And we did it kind of in this funny rap type thing, but it was part of the play Night on the Prairie. And that's when we were also commissioned to go get Indian uniforms and kind of act that whole Walkin' to the West theme out on the back of the Cultural Hall. But through that process of actually at night times going down to the crossing at Montrose, when the saints were making that exodus, and those of you who have actually been there and actually witnessed that, either in the winter or even in the summer when the Mississippi runs by, you get a sense of peace, courage, and duty associated with circumstance that they had to flee, and they were under some real duress. And you can think about that as you think of covered wagons, you think of the simulation of hand carts, stakes across the country, try and figure out how to simulate this, like you mentioned, Joel, for the youth. And if you've ever been a Ma and Pa specific, which Cindy and I have been that, and have been on a number of different excursions with this type of an experience, it is profound to be able to find some connection with those that actually went through the struggle immensely through this struggle. And we can't even come close to, except if we're lost in the Uintas or something to that effect for 10 days, you know, and we're trying to get our bearings and we're running out of water. And so we all have our own little circumstances that draw close onto those type of experiences. But I don't think we can just even understand a small portion.
It's really hard to imagine, isn't it? Not the first time for most of them, but however many times they'd been asked to pick up and move. And those that had to do that in the middle of the winter across frozen river, or like just launch, you know, just go out there and walk for 20 miles on a day when it's 10 degrees outside. And it's so hard to imagine. You know, I've heard some people say, even in the church today, I couldn't do that. And the truth is, some of us couldn't. I probably couldn't. You look at it and you think, how could I ever really sacrifice and suffer that much for the things that I believed? Would I give up? Would I quit? Would I, like some of them did, turn around and go back home or stay where they were? And I've also heard people compare today's time to that time and say, maybe they were the right people for the right time. Maybe they were uniquely prepared and supported in that particular trial. And maybe they'd struggle in our day. So I think it's true in both senses, but the idea that maybe we're where we're supposed to be too, because the challenges we face and our kids face. Diana and I talk about this all the time. Raising children today, our grandchildren. Wow, the challenges they face are unprecedented. So maybe God puts us where we need to be, and then we all have to rise up and meet whatever challenge it is we're called to meet.
And many have said we live for what we believe today. That's our example, and that is our challenge, specifically in a very interesting time. It draws me back to the experience of many of us have had going to Martin's Cove. And they made it so far, but there were so many that were buried along the way. But that Martin's Cove experience is a profound experience in regards to understanding how Brother Hanks brought people across that river. And as they were called to go back, and the suffering that took place, and just the timing of all things in very disparate circumstances. And if we look back into church history and a lot of events in regards to that, we can find nuggets of inspiration and faith and courage that can help us move on our journey today, specifically with what we're faced with in our current day and challenges with AI and all the different things that we're being faced with, and challenge of belief and challenge of story and challenge of revelation and challenge of modern prophets and challenge of this golden plate thing and all the things associated with it. But the truth is, God has a master plan. We have to just truly figure out if we believe it or not.
Yeah. You talking there reminded me of a couple of particular experiences from the Trek event that I went on when I wrote this song. You mentioned Martin's Cove. And one of my assignments that week, and I got totally ambushed by this. I don't mean in a bad way. It was one of the most powerful and profound experiences I've ever had. But they asked me to stand at Martin's Cove, the top of that incline there. And as the kids came up through that pass, they asked me to talk. Not about the pioneers. This was such an interesting thing. I wondered about the request, and it was only later that I realized it was probably inspired. They said, talk about the Garden of Gethsemane. Talk about Jesus. Talk about the sacrifice that was made in his atonement. And they had me sing a cappella for each group, There is a Green Hill Far Away.
Oh, wonderful.
And I couldn't get through it. The spirit in that place, like you said, because of the sacrifices that were made. And I almost couldn't sing the song. And I felt that somebody really was inspired to ask for that message and that song together in that place. Because I saw that on the faces of so many of those kids who probably had thought about it about as much as I had, which is not at all. And suddenly there's this message that linked the sacrifices of the day and the things they were feeling, which were hard. They walking and climbing and hiking and all that, and then tying it to the sacrifice and his willingness, our Savior's willingness to sacrifice everything for us. And I thought, wow, that's so powerful. And the other moment that really struck me from that week, we didn't introduce this song until like the second or third day at a camp, an evening camp. We had the sound system there, pulled it out, and played the song, and I sang it for the kids, and then I taught it to them.
Wow. And
to hear 350 kids and their advisors and leaders sing This Is My Trek, that, wow, it was such a powerful moment. I've still had a couple of kids from that time, and they're adults now with their own children. And I've had a couple of people reach out to me in the last few weeks and say, do you remember that? You remember that moment when we did Trek and we all sang that song? I thought, what a blessing it is to get those opportunities sometimes when you feel that unity and everybody's just banded together in spirit and in song, and a pretty powerful experience for me.
So here we are in today's environment. What are some of the, what is your trek right now? What are some of the things that you personally are working on in your trek and that you glean from the past and those stories, and how has that helped you specifically in your daily walk today?
Diana and I were talking today about the fact that I'm going to try to retire from my regular job at the end of this year. And I told her, I think I'm going to change my LinkedIn profile. Like, I know some people who have the same LinkedIn profile 10 years after they retire. They're not doing any of that same stuff. And I thought, the question that it asked of me, though, is what is the next step? What is it that when I have the time of my work gone, which takes a lot of time for all of us that work. And what should the trek be? What should the cause be? I don't have the answer yet. I don't know. But I wanted to be conscious and intentional about it. If I launch into a new phase of life, I should know where that life is headed. I should know what I hope to achieve. And it was a good moment today for me to kind of go, well, I could just retire. You just quit, and then you play golf and you run around and travel and do all those fun things. Yeah, I probably will do some of that. But I also wanted to have a plan and a direction. You know, the concept of a trek applies to all of us. It might change in various ways as we go through life, but I think that's a pretty important piece.
Sounds like continued trek with purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something you're thinking about?
Well, yeah, we've always thinking about that, and the more I think about it, and as more we talk about it, we don't always know what's around the corner and what opportunities lie ahead. And so more and more it is, what should I be doing for the purposes of the kingdom? And what should I be doing for the purposes of the Lord? Because realistically, you can waste a lot of time.
For sure.
Through the process of whatever you do in your next phase, and you have more time. But what I've learning is a whole lot of nothing leads to a whole lot of nothing.
Right.
And there has to be something that you can find passion and purpose in. And as long as we're seeking God's kingdom first, and we're not turning down anything and any opportunity that He wants us to do, and we're seeking what His direction is for us, not only temporally, but spiritually, then my trek has a purpose. And sometimes that purpose unfolds line by line. It's not always about, it's going to be right there before you. But it's interesting because we're starting to see some steps in our temporal career as well in regards to the next step, even after retirement, semi-retirement. Mm-hmm. There's always a purpose of things that you can do. And the Lord simply requires that whatever you do it with faith in Him, you do it with effort and with kindness, and to build His kingdom and be consecrated in the effort. And whatever that looks like, you'll be able to do a lot of different things. Maybe just not one specific thing. Yeah. But a lot of different things that will benefit good. And as long as we do good, even though we're not going to get a lot of accolades in the world for doing good.
Or other kinds of success like money or fame or power or whatever, right?
So goodness and kindness is sometimes going to be under radar. And the Lord's actually talked about that, about doing alms.
Where people don't see, right?
Where they don't see, and you do things so He can see, and He will bless you accordingly.
I think so, and I was just thinking about that too. The metaphor of a trek actually makes some sense here too, because planning and intentionality is really important. And we don't know what's around the next corner. And that's where we have to learn to trust God and say, okay, I think this is a good direction. I'm going to move in this way. Help me, guide me, direct me, change my course where I need to.
And I'm pretty sure it was Elder Uchtdorf that talked about make a plan.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if the
plan changes, right? Yeah. It's all good for us. And I think it was fun to come back to this one a little bit. You know, as you mentioned, it's got this kind of pioneer feel, and it's a cool thing and kind of a metaphor for life. And hopefully people will get something out of this song too.
Day after day, we walk, we travel onward. How long must we go on today? Mile after mile, this path goes on forever. How will we ever find our way? Leaving our homes to wander in the wild lands, we go to preserve what we believe. Sometimes I fear I'll fall along the wayside, and I'll never find the place of peace. But at the head of the column, a standard is unfurled, and we're called to raise our voices up in song. A light to the nations, a beacon to the world. It's the power of the truth that makes us strong. This is my trek, to follow the Savior and the saints who left a legacy for me in latter days. This is my quest, to walk this path with honor and to share the light within. This is my trek. I walk the road, though sometimes I'm not sure of just where the path might lead. My destination's not a far-off desert, but still I must learn to believe. Caught in the fire of tests and trials and troubles, His love will show the way. In all I do, to strive to be found worthy and meet Him in that joyous day. But at the head of the column, a standard is unfurled, and we're called to raise our voices up in song. A light to the nations, a beacon to the world. It's the power of the truth that makes us strong. This is my trek, to follow the Savior and the saints who left a legacy for me in latter days. This is my quest, to walk this path with honor and to share the light within. This is my trek.